So the term "save the world" or save the earth gets used a lot, and I'm going to look into what it means. Also considering what would be good or bad in that context, right and wrong, good and evil. It's all about what's sustainable, and specifically for our culture. We want to think about what will last for us. Like what? And I think that, and then we have the other idea of like nature itself. Like what will save the planet from being over polluted and such. And so first of all, it's like, is it a world worth saving? Is if humans can't, what happens in societies that are very peaceful is they become homogenized. And that doesn't mean that they have to be the same ethnicity. It means it means they find a way to have a similar enough culture that they can get along and trust each other, and there's like, it ends up being like very minimal crime. Like this is something that happens in places like Japan. It happened. So we want it to happen worldwide, but we also don't want it to be under the auspices of a one world government, because that's actually a concentration of power. And then, so if that gets corrupted, then the whole world is corrupted, you know what I mean? Like if it becomes where everyone's trying to follow one leader, like the whole monarchy of an idea of a Jesus type of it's like we have to decide what makes sense, and part of what makes sense is having some borders and smaller governments and massive governments. That also means doing things like investing in or making purchases from smaller stores, so that big stores can't have that much control and influence over everyone. And so that's kind of the deal. So the question is, when people say they want to save the world, the counterpoint to that is that it's too broad of a goal, and that it instead has to be more about improving oneself in one specific field. So then the question is, what is that field for you? But it's still a question of, is it like in sustainability? Well, my field is building trust in society by using different language to describe and different techniques to relate to each other and to also commit to each other. So it's the psychology of why. I also have other practical ideas, such as using a dental pick on your gums once a week. But there's still a question of more of a sense of that we're enjoying life. Like, what's an ideal world look like? Some people, I think, make the mistake of thinking, we'll wait till the afterlife. Well, that's perfect. But it doesn't make any sense, because you can't have a Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you can't have a So, like, how do you save the world, right? Well, you first have the final outcome. You have the results of what you want to see in the world. So we have to identify the people that transgress against that. That would include people who are pursuing sex outside of marriage because they just want because they're taking advantage of women's indecision and poor decision making. Let's look into how people live. Part of it is how much hard work are you willing to pay for, or to work on to have how much degree of comfort. You see what I'm saying? So like, there's still that kind of choice element involved of like, what are people willing to do in the world to make it a nice place. One major aspect is, are people going to get over the fear of death, both for themselves and for people who are, you know, like bad criminals who you know, like pedophiles, for example, people who are not you know, all these people need to be humanely executed so that they don't create more, like, they don't continue the cycle of violence. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that was fucked up. Alright, so so things like, will people ultimately become healthy? And stop eating foods that gives them excessive fat, and, you know. Another thing is, certain parents, should they be allowed to have children, and how do we regulate that? Because if they're unhealthy, then they have unhealthy habits, and they're poor, then they're going to be the only way the children can do better is if other people give them free care, like nurses and doctors help them deliver the children, and and society gives them money to help the children raise them out of it. It doesn't. That's why I have a big issue with government assistance. Like maybe programs for people that are like short term, like 1 year. But otherwise, don't see the benefits of it. But here's the thing, if we all have the same religion, like, I'm not saying people should have the same government, but if we had the same religion, then we would be willing to respect each other more. See? Yeah, that's the. So I'm trying to create a religion that all people can relate to, which is celebrating a woman's vulva, and that's worshiping Goddess V. But my biggest, like, a lot of Christians will say that, oh, we'll just till Jesus comes back. But the problem with that is that it's like they haven't actually thought of what that would look like if they come back. You see what I'm saying? Like they haven't thought of, well, what does that mean that they're gonna put the that they're going to have still churches and pastors, or is it going to be like one day ruling over everything? It doesn't add up, you know. Another thing is people need to realize that getting, life commitment, and so people are going to have to start doing that, but it's going to be based on I got to run, guys, but we'll talk more. Aloha.